You have a very good knowledge of fragility and crisis management. Could you please describe us your past experience of fragility and crisis?
Before coming to the European Commission 9 months ago, I worked for more than 15 years in fragile countries and in situations of conflicts. First in Africa for more than 5 years, in Gabon and in Niger just after the Tuareg rebellion end. Then I worked for almost 2 years in Afghanistan in a very challenging time, a very few weeks after the Bonn conference, and 2 years and a half with also with the United Nations in the occupied Palestinian territory. And then what followed was a 5 years experience at NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in its headquarters, where I experienced the birth and the development of the famous comprehensive approach process. And it was extremely interesting to follow again the development of this concept with regard to the areas that I already knew, like Afghanistan. And for the last 9 months I have been here heading the new Fragility and Crisis Management Unit, following the reorganization of DEVCO, but also following the emphasis put on addressing fragility in the development cooperation.
What are the strongest memories you keep from this past experience?
The Afghanistan experience is the most interesting because I saw this country with the lens of the 3 organizations for which I worked, United Nations, NATO, and now European Commission. And I saw both hope and challenges. I saw also things going down, but also things going up. The evolution of Afghanistan is maybe one of the most interesting and most tremendous experience I have.
How do you think these past experiences are helping you now in the headquarters of EuropeAid to design the strategic orientations of your unit?
Experience is never a panacea. Of course, I learned a lot of things. But I think it's important that I was exposed to so many environments because finally 2 crises are not alike. So more you can learn from one to know at least what to avoid in the second or in the upcoming one. But again, experience is not a panacea, and only my own experience is not the solution. And in fact, I draw the results of our unit on the work of the whole team, which is very motivated and very experienced.
How do you see the role and the mandate of your unit in this context?
As per the mission statement, we have a twofold role. One is to design the policy framework for cooperating with the fragile states. But on the other hand, we are also meant to provide to the organization the necessary tools, the necessary guidance, if I may modestly say so, in order to better address situations of fragility and of crisis. At the same time, because we are not alone, we are the biggest donor in the world, but we work on the ground in cooperation with partners, and we are working into a whole-of-you approach. We are also meant to be the first stop shop, the interface with other organizations and with other EU institutions in situations and on issues related to fragility and to crisis. Thus, we have our internal role of support, of policy development, of coordination, but also the role of maintaining the policy dialogue with other international actors and of coordination within the European Union institutions.
Can you please define fragility?
You know, there are a lot of definitions of fragility. Of course, we are here using as the baseline and as the basis for our work the definition adopted by the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. But if you ask me to summarize it, I think there are 3 key things. One is a weak state. B, a weak state that is not able to deliver services to its citizens for a number of reasons, incapacity mainly, but also other causes. And 3, a weak state which is not able to deliver the basic services, but it's not able to meet the basic rights of its population. And this is very strongly linked to the concept of state building as the necessary step to address fragility. The state building aims exactly at building the states to build the peace and to build a better society in these countries.
How do you work with your colleagues from ECHO and from the External Action Service who work also on crises for the EU?
We work very closely on a day-by-day basis, and of course through informal contacts and exchange of information, which are also accompanied by the existence of formal arrangements, like for example the Inter-Service Group on Transition, in which we are sitting together with ECHO. We are in fact co-chairing this group together with my twin sister from the specific thematic policies unit of ECHO, Unit A4, and where we invite also participants from other geographical units, from DEFCO, from EAS and from ECHO. We are also working closely with the European External Action Service, and we build very good cooperation, especially with the Conflict Prevention and Peace Building Unit, but also with other structures, for example, of the Crisis Management and Planning Department, who are managing the CSDP operations, and also via our geographical units, also with the geographical units in EAS. A partner to mention is the Managing Directorate on Crisis Response and Operational Coordinations, with whom we are working closely as participants in the crisis platform, but also in our effort to harmonize our internal arrangements, both in EAS and in DEFCO, so to ensure better operational coordination and operational response when a crisis arises.
Can you please tell us what is the overall purpose of this training and why this training now?
With regard to fragility, as I was mentioning earlier, the key challenge is to be able to build a state that will build peace, that will build basic rights and meet basic needs of its population. From the countries that we have supported as cooperation partners, some of them went better and others went worse, is maybe because we used the same approach for everybody. Addressing fragility asks to put the state building at our heart. And this is something that has to be adapted and customized to the needs of every country. It asks for a different approach, for renewed skills, for building these skills and these competencies in our staff, and of course together with our operational partners of the ground, other bilateral donors. It is important to make it now because we have an excellent window of opportunity, which is the onset of the programming exercise. It's the onset of the programming exercise, but it's the onset of a new commitment in these countries for 7 years from now on, not only when we discuss programming and allocation of funds, but also in our day-to-day of managing our projects, in monitoring, in evaluating, and so on. That's why it's critical that now key staff from our delegations in fragile states, as well as our headquarters staff, receive this information about this new approach to fragility, on how EU will take it forward, and they receive the practical information to build their skills. We have extremely valuable staff in our delegations, people with experience, people who are very familiar with our procedures, people who know the values of the organization, transparency, efficiency, and it is important that now we can draw on all these opportunities to streamline this new approach and this new vision in our programming work. Ultimately, getting results in these countries is with the skills of our people and with the skills of our partners on the ground, and on the way on which we, as a strong international partner, the biggest donor in the world, engage with our partner countries and we deliver together.
What do you expect from this exchange with your colleagues from the delegations and from the geo-directorates? What is the final outcome you would like to see?
We hope it will be a really mutual experience-gaining event. It will be also an event in which we will be able to have the common understanding of the concepts which are at stake: fragility, state building, a common understanding of the processes that we are setting in the programming, the new programming framework, eventually moving ahead also with new elements that are expected to be developed during the upcoming programming cycle. For example, the indicators for monitoring our work in peace building and state building. So we expect that we have what in the more professional training language will have a harmonization of skills, to say so, but also a sort of team building, because in the close future we will have to work increasingly together here in I5, the geographical directorates, the delegation people, the EAS colleagues, to put together in place this new approach. So we need to learn together and we need to take it further also together. Again, one crisis is not like the other, so doubtless there will be also a lot of questions mark, and here is this collective work will be very useful, because we will be able to understand what difficulties they see from the ground, and then how the geographical units and ourselves, we will share the responsibility in supporting them to put this in practice. Ultimately, there are them who there are every day with our partners and with the other donor and agencies to take this challenging and very interesting work forward.